So if you've been listening to me for a while, you know that in about 2009, 2008, I lost everything. I lost my ability to sell. My marriage fell apart. My health was in the toilet. And after that, I had my renaissance. In years later, I have figured out that it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I talk to people in crisis all the time, and I promise them, I tell you, if you just follow these steps and if you just keep walking and you keep believing, someday you're going to be telling the story that this is the best thing that ever happened to you also. I met my next guest while he was telling his story of his crisis, and how it may have been the best thing that ever happened to him. We'll find out when we talk to him. Simon Leslie is the joint chief executive of Inc. Global, a travel media company, and as well as he invests in startups and mentors their CEOs. He built Inc. to $100 million or more. And then the pandemic ravaged his company. Remember, he was in the travel industry. He's currently rebuilding the company to be even bigger and more profitable. So that's pretty audacious to decide to come back like that. He's the author of No F in Sales, White Belt Thinking, which I just love the title of that, just always being a beginner. And the book about his experiences that we just talked about, Equanimity, the diary of a CEO in crisis, where he interviews some of the most famous, most resilient people on earth, and weaves that into the story of his coming out of the pandemic and the crisis even better. Simon, thanks for being here.
And you know what? I'm only just getting started.
What do you mean by that?
Well, it's like, I hear, when people describe me, I'm thinking, yeah, but okay, that's great, but I've still got so much freeway ahead of me. I've still got so many more opportunities that lie ahead. So I still believe that so much more lies ahead than is behind me. So I really am quite excited by to share some of that with you.
Yeah, no, you and I talked about this at Rise and Record where we met. I'm 60 years old and I'm just fucking getting started. Like, I'm so full of energy and so full of creativity that, it doesn't matter. You actually talk in the book about how the fact that the front view mirror is bigger than the rear view mirror. It doesn't work to look back, even on revenue. What are you going to do in the future?
Exactly. The windscreen is bigger than the rear view mirror.
Okay, that was the exact quote. So I'm curious. Let's do a short version of the we came, we crashed, we rebuilt story that you have.
Well, I had a number of failures before I even started this business. So I crashed and burned a few times, and even during this 28 years of Inc. being in business, every 7 years it seemed to be something came along. 2001 was 9/11, then 2008, and in between that you had SARS, bird flu, you had ash clouds, and then this big financial crisis came along. 2012, all of Europe started going bankrupt, country by country, and then I guess I felt like there wasn't anything happening in 2014, 15, so I created my own little mini crash by over investing in digital. So I knew something was coming when COVID hit. I just didn't quite. I couldn't believe it was going to be this bad. You see, every recession, every other event, travel kept going. People still went on their holidays and they sort of ignored what was going on in the rest of the world. But for the first time ever, nothing. Airports shut, airlines grounded. So it was the first real, I don't know what to do moment.
Well, what was your business that it affected you so harshly?
Well, we produced 36 in-flight magazines.
So those
We
magazines that are in the back of the seats with all the advertising and the cool stories and the Sudoku.
and the New York Times crossword, and we had a Reach TV, which was a TV network at the airports, which played content at the airports. So everything we did was linked to travel advertising, or to advertisers reaching travelers, connecting with travelers. And so when we have no travelers, we have no advertisers. We paid for everything. So you imagine, when you produce a magazine, it's all done sort of 3 months in advance. So you write it, you design it, you print it, you ship it. So we had a couple of issues already produced, which were I think it was March the 9th that we were told, get them off the plane. They're spreading COVID. And then I had to really sit back and think, what can I do? And the Equanimity is my diary from that moment right the way to coming out the other end.
So you went from $100 million to, where's the quarters in the couch?
It was even worse than that. Where do I sell the couch?
That's pretty funny. We have a special guest joining the podcast, Brandon T. Adams, the gentleman who introduced me to Simon Leslie. Brandon, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. And
Brandon T. Adams, welcome to the show.
I want to start with a poem, and here's the poem. Today I got another go to bring out my best show, to show the world what I got, not to hide, to give it my best shot. Simon, is this you?
Maybe.
So let me ask you, why in the hell would you start writing poetry?
Oh, I actually figured this out this weekend. We were sat having a very nice lunch, my wife and I said, I've just realized why I wrote all those poems. There was this creative bones in my body that were not being exercised. And I think that when the stress and everything that was going on during COVID, I needed something to release me. And that poetry was my escape. That was my get away from whatever else is going on. I'm going to sit down and write poetry. And that's today's poem, isn't it?
It was a couple of days ago.
A few days ago.
700 odd poems later, including two manuals of poetry. It's been the most amazing release. So every time I feel like, I can't deal with what's going on right now, I go into a dark room and sit there and start writing, and that's the result of it. And I did it for fun. People will say, well, people don't like it, or they don't comment it, or they don't share it. They do, by the way. I don't care. I don't write for anyone but me. This is my release. If people like it, share it. It's a Brucey bonus, but really, it's just me allowing myself to use that creativity for a force for good.
For me, it's interesting when you're going through hell, the thought is to hunker down, no hobbies, no fun, no creativity, get to work, fix things. And for you figured out that you needed a creative outlet, which probably informed what you did next.
Absolutely. I think my saying is, if you're going through hell, just keep going.
And write poetry while you're doing it. Yeah. Hey, Brandon, I know you only had a minute to pop on the show. Quick question for you is, in a nutshell, what does Simon mean to you, and why is he such a beacon in your life?
Simon is family, a mentor. During COVID, we both were going through the same obstacles, which allowed us to actually become even farther on top. And we got to really just spend some time together and share what would be real, authentic selves, spending a few days in a hotel in different cities. And it meant so much to me to have somebody like him, almost like a brother, to be there during that time. And it's cool to see in a matter of a few years how far we've both grown together. I love him dearly. And I just want to say I love you, Simon, for everything you've done. You inspire me. And Mark, love you as well. Thank you. Your show's amazing. And everybody listening, make sure you guys get in the world of these two, because they're amazing human beings.
Thanks for stopping by, Brandon. I appreciate it.
See you guys. Thank you.
The other lesson I get from that is, if you're going through hell, write poetry, and don't go through hell alone. Find a buddy. But did you find that writing poetry and finding that creative outlet did help you with, because you had to reinvent a business from scratch. You were decimated. You weren't just left kind of gasping on the floor. You were decimated. You had to figure out something different immediately.
We had a little bit of cash. No, we had quite a lot of cash when we started it. So I assumed, well,
this is a much better story if you were destitute and your children were panhandling.
No, but that cash started to dwindle, because if you're not bringing any money, I mean, this is a business that was bringing in 10 to 15 million a month. All of a sudden, we're giving back 1 million a month to different people. So it really was. I don't know. I don't know if the word was destitute, because I don't know if I ever felt that broken. I had a sense of confidence. I think my imagination is really strong, and I think when people are under duress, they lose their imagination, they lose their vision, they lose the things that, you know, the dreams that they used to have. And I think I imagined what I wanted it to look like at the end, and then you have to add the sort of narrative and the storytelling to that
So you didn't know how you
imagination.
were going to get there. You just knew how it was going to look, and then the steps were going to materialize as you went.
The other thing I realized was the business was running me, and I was not running the business. So even when we were in these great times, we just had our best ever year. We just made record profits, record turnover. I'm still first in, I'm last out. You know, I'm working every hour God gives. I'm traveling all over the world. This is not the way I'm going to run the business when this is all over. And that was my belief. When this is all over, this isn't, oh, this is the end of the road. This will start, like anything, like strikes and everything else. They start and at some point they finish. So I just had, I think, just the most vivid imagination, or moment of imagination, where I said, no, I think this is a chance to build something from this. No one else has got any idea as well, by the way, because everybody else is sort of in the same storm, maybe not in the same boats, but everybody is like trying to figure this out, and how we're going to figure it out. And I think that optimism and that belief is what got me through.
Nice. So tell me. So the name of the book is Equanimity, and it's the story of you going through this storm. What are the ingredients that led to you finding equanimity in that?
So many people kept saying to me, "You seem very calm. You know, this is a mess." And I went, "Yeah, okay." But is not being calm, is that going to make the mess any easier, better to deal with? And they went, probably not. But, you know, are you not getting stressed out by this? And I'm like, again, it's not going to make it any easier. I've just got to remain as calm as I possibly can. You know, be the lighthouse. You know, and just keep the light on and try and give everyone a cause to believe in. And that was the ethos, or the backbone of what it was. What I then did was I realized I couldn't do anything for work, right? There was no selling of anything, and we couldn't produce anything. So I looked at our product set and said, what could we do differently with that? That was the first thing we did, and realized there was very little we could do. So with the exception of maybe sending a few magazines to some of the airline customers at home, you know, we just sort of looked at ways we could support our clients and started giving back to them. Then I said, right, I need to look after my team, because if I'm going to get out of this, I need a team to get me out of this. And I had about 170 people in my division. And I started reaching out to all these people in the book and said, I've got no money. I've got nothing to offer you. You know, some of them I'd worked with before, others were just cold calls. I said, please come and help me. Please come and help me. Just come and talk to my team for an hour each day, or an hour today, or an hour tomorrow, whenever you can do it. And that's how it started. And did I know?
Hold on, but you were reaching out to people like Tim Story and Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street, Wim Hof. Like you were reaching out to the people who really make a difference in your people.
I aimed high. I mean, I love, you know, something you said at the beginning was, you know, it's just one step in front of the other. That's what Alison Levine said. You know, she was the lady that climbed Everest, had done both poles. She's got a disease that doesn't allow her to be in the cold. You know, this woman had achieved everything, you know, in the most treacherous conditions. And she said to me, put one foot in front of the other and just keep going. Just keep going, and tell yourself better stories. And it was those conversations which I thought were in to help my team, but actually they were giving me confidence. They were giving me more belief. And, you know, it was never my intention to write a book. My intention was, I'm just going to get through this. But I started journaling, and then all of a sudden I'm thinking, do you know what? There's some really powerful stories in here. Maybe I need to share these. Maybe I need to put them in some format. And you know, and what I've tried to do was include it in a diary. So, you know, the speaker came in, and then this is some of the impact it had on me in the weeks that followed. And As we enter another phase of challenging environments, I think this book's going to be so useful to so many.
One of the nice ways, one of the things you did really well is tying in current events. So people knew where you were, where we all were while you're going through that. I thought it was really cool. One of the things you say in the book is anyone who thinks they don't want problems is not living to their full potential. What do you mean by that?
Well, my belief is opportunities are gift wrapped in problems. So if you don't want problems, you're never going to see opportunity. And it's the process of unpacking those problems that leads you to an opportunity. Now, once you know that in your head and you can frame it that way, you don't see problems as a challenge as much anymore. You see them as a gateway to the opportunity that's on the other side. And the bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity. And I've been believing this now for 3 years, and I've found so many opportunities hidden inside problems. So you need the problems, and it starts giving you confidence that you've got, you've got the ability to get your way out of this.
Yeah, for me, again, that thing that I said was the worst thing that ever happened to me became the best thing that ever happened to me. One of the reasons is because I could realize I could deal with anything. If I could deal with that, I can deal with anything. You also say, that you live in a place where you don't mind what happens. That's very Buddhist. That's very Zen of you. What do you mean by that?
Well, I don't mind what happens. Can I live with the upside and can I live with the downside? And if I can live with the downside, then I can live with whatever life throws at me. So if I'm making these decisions, let's sort of unpack that, right? People make decisions and they go, oh, that was a great decision. Why? Because it had a great outcome. But what happens if you make a great decision and you get a crappy outcome? Was it therefore a bad decision? No, of course it wasn't. It was just the outcome. And it's a bit like good, bad. All these things that we think, we've created these labels on our language that put us in this state. Oh, I made a great decision. I got a terrible outcome. I'm rubbish. I'm useless. I'm not worthy. And it's really important to just stay in that place of, whatever it is. You come to me and say, I've got great news. And I go, okay, let's hear the news. And they go, no, it's great news. Okay. I can't tell you today if it's great news because it could be in 2 years' time. Somebody was interviewing me the other day and he said to me, why did you do my podcast? And I said, because, who knows? Who knows who could be listening? There could be someone listening who wants me to coach them. And I go, that's great news. And then I go, but he doesn't pay me. That's bad news. So even when you think something is good news, there still needs to be a few more layers unwrapped before it really is good news.
So were you born this way, or did you learn it over your life, or is this really grounded and centered outlook of come from what you just went through?
No, it's been a process. On my 40th birthday, so a few years ago, I was successful, wealthy, beautiful house, beautiful family, beautiful wife, 4 children, Bentley on the drive, and I was the most miserable human being on earth. So I'm looking at my life going, what's going on here? You've achieved more than anybody, including yourself, ever believed you'd be able to achieve. And you're ungrateful, you're spoilt, and you're unhappy. So I started that journey. I read every piece of thing on happiness and, gratitude, appreciation, kindness. I went to lots of places and learned with lots of different people from different backgrounds. I started studying me and studying hypnosis and body language, NLP, micro expressions, handwriting. I started to understand the human brain and how it works and where it takes you in different places. So I did a lot of inner work. And this is the process of that. And probably if I hadn't done that, I had 2 heart attacks, one in 2014 and one in 2020. Not physical heart attacks, business heart attacks. but I'd been doing the work, and I was able to handle them, I think, for that particular reason.
It's so interesting because people often say to me, they would like to be more like me. This happened. Why are you not bothered by that? Why are you so calm? Why? And I'm like, one, I've done decades of work. And two, even though I've done decades of work like AA, I am on my cushion in the morning at 5:20 every morning creating this guy because I wake up Eeyore. Like no matter what, I've done, like I have it all. I've done all the stuff. I've seen the truth about life and I still wake up Eeyore. So I get on my meditation cushion and I pull out my journal and I create this guy every day. That's how it happens. If you'd like to be like me, you can do the same thing. So what you say is like, it's no accident that you were able to come through the pandemic in the travel industry better than before because you had prepared for it for a decade or so before that.
It's a bit like, you're sitting, you got a problem and you'll sit there with a piece of paper and you'll work on it, stress over it for 24, 48, maybe 72 hours, and you get nothing. And then suddenly you'll be driving along and it'll come to you in an instant. You go, oh, yeah, it just came to me. No, it didn't just come to you. You've just spent the last 4 days preparing your brain for that moment for it to come to you. You see, everything that's going on that you see, so many people I know train to there. Oh, they're in the gym every morning, pumping iron. But between there and there is where everything happens. Every bit of mindset, performance, success, failure happens in between your ears, and people are not training that muscle. It's the bravery muscle. It's the muscle that allows you to say things and not give a fudge what people think.
Being candid like that, radical candor is again a practice. It's a muscle. Being brave is a muscle. Everything that you want, every part of your personality that you'd like to develop, they're like muscles. We're elastic. We are fungible and can create who we want to be every day. It's really cool. So I could talk to you for like hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, but I want to be cognizant that people are driving to work and would like to finish on a good note. You said something in the book that really, to me, if people got it, it would change the game for them. And that's the pursuit of anything, happiness, wealth, a good reputation is the problem. They're already inside. It's our job to let them out. And then you add, if we want to, which I think is a very critical piece of that thing. How did you come to that? And how can you share your experience with it so people get really how important that is?
Someone once said the search for happiness is the pursuit of happiness is actually unhappiness. And I think that because they're looking in the wrong place, that's what I go back to the inner work. It's inside of you now. Now, listen, I am a happy person, but does that mean I walk around with a cheesy grin all day long and, whistling and singing a tune? No, of course not. Most of the time I'm grumpy, but my inner soul is happy. It's pleased with what it's done. I talk to my 16-year-old self and I say, hey fella, haven't we done well? Have I surpassed what you thought I'd do? There are people around who are living the life they dreamed of and are physically, mentally, and emotionally broken. Hang on a minute. This is the life that you had your board set up on your wall, said this is the life I want. And I've had people who work for me and I sit down with them. I said, this is what you dreamed about. 2 years ago, you had a vision board of this. Now you've got it. You're as miserable as hell. And that's the bit that I want to do work with people and get them out of that funk, because they've got to get the appreciation and the gratitude first. I wake up every morning. I do this chicken dance, which is like there's no box. It's a good day, because any day you get is a good day. Any day you don't get is a bad day. So that already reframes my mind. My mind says, okay, I've got to get out of bed.
I got to explain the
Yesterday.
visual. The chicken dance was the elbows hitting the side of the coffin. If there's no sides, it's a good day. I just, without the visual, I wasn't sure that was going to go. I love that because, like I live in my dream house. I totally live in my dream house in my dream neighborhood, and it's awesome. And I don't have a screened-in porch. And my neighbor rebuilt her screened-in porch for $25,000, $30,000, and it's gorgeous. It has a heater, it has a fan, it has everything. And I'm like, oh, my house doesn't have a screened-in porch. Right. And I catch myself. Where am I looking? Am I looking at the dream house? Am I looking at the things I love about my home? Or am I looking at what I lack? It's just, where am I placing my attention?
But the question I want to just further add to that question, which is like when you're telling your story, fill in the gaps, because so many people tell their story and they leave big chunks out that are not that interesting, but actually they're the bits where the success and the failure lands. And I think the fill in the blanks of your own story is how you get to where you need to get to. You know, I did this, I went there, I had this, I had that, but there are so many details that you have in your life that you need to go back and really revisit, relive, increase that imagination, increase the dream, increase the narrative, improve the way you describe yourself, improve your narrative and your linguistics, improve your energy. Everything I do is about energy. So all those things are energies, and most of them are really positive energy. Having money, having material things are not positive energies, but those things are so positive. And if you really tune up your energy, turn that up to whatever gas mark 5 or 6, whatever the highest form of that energy is, and you live as that person, it's very, very hard to slow you down. It's very hard for you not to achieve what you want to achieve, because you're living in your true self with your true energy without anything getting in the way. And that's how I do it.
Beautiful. Last question, or last statement, actually. You came out of this with a bigger heart, with more compassion. You said anyone who, oh wait, my wrong quote. You basically said, I think even write this down? I didn't write it down. So I still have the question. You said, if anyone needs help, you're there to help, right? You're looking for people to add to their lives, to help in any way that you can. You came out of this more compassionate, more open-hearted, would you say?
Well, if those 50 people hadn't helped me, and they didn't have to, I probably wouldn't be in business. I probably would be a broken man somewhere. So my commitment to them and to the law of reciprocity and gratitude and appreciation is that I will help anyone that comes to me. I'm very good at inbox zero. I'm very good at responding to people when they write to me. Can I do this forever? I don't know, but I can certainly do it at the moment, and I'm really good at it. And if someone's got a serious problem or a serious challenge, if I can't help you, I can definitely point you in the right direction. Somebody can, and I offer that to anybody that's listening to this. Follow me on LinkedIn. I diarized every single month since January as well. So when the book finished, I said, right, I'm going to commit to writing on the last day of every month what I've achieved this month. Why do that? Because it keeps me to not wasting days. It keeps me to a standard of living that I want to show off about at the end of the month. It shows my team what's capable if they really put their mind to things. And because of that, I've got October, so 10 months now of, look, you'll see me in multiple places, smoking multiple cigars and having as much fun as I can. And I'm going to commit to doing that for as long as I can.
It's actually amazing. So I'm going to put all the links to how to follow you, your website, your LinkedIn post, the Motivational Poet on Instagram, which I'm so excited that I found, because they're really good and they're really useful. Parting words. Actually, here I'll feed you the parting word. Someone reads your book, they put it down, and they sigh. What do you want them to walk away with? What do you hope they got?
I hope, if any of the books, I hope that they write to me and tell me something that helped them. Just one thing. There's probably 700-800 pages of content in those 3 books. And I get emails every week from people going, that was wonderful. That one bit of advice helped me so much. Or this, because, when, as writers, as creatives, we write stuff. And if people don't tell us they like it, dislike it, hate it, challenge it, criticize it, whatever it is, we don't know. So, and I was surprised. I wrote the first book mainly just to get some exposure for our business, because I didn't feel like people were taking us seriously. And that was in 2019. And then all of a sudden I started getting all these lovely messages, and I'm thinking, I don't know you. I've never had anything to do with you. And I've helped you. And to me, that is the most powerful thing. And the same thing happened during COVID. I used to write a rant every single week on LinkedIn about governments not doing what they're supposed to be doing. This messaging is wrong. That's not good. And then I started getting people phoning me up and going, you don't realize how much your positivity and your messaging helped me. I'm like, who the hell are you? Where did you? He goes, well, you wrote it. Someone who followed you shared it, and this guy read it out at a conference and said, this is how we should be. And I went, it gives me a bit of goosebumps, Mark. But it really, for me, that's the most powerful thing. Give me some feedback, good or bad, and keep in touch.
Nice. Yeah. This, when I look to see where people listen to this podcast in Thailand, in Japan, in Russia, it's crazy to me that people all over the world in other languages would listen to this podcast. It's really kind of fun. Simon, I'm so grateful that our paths crossed, that I met you, and thank you for doing this with me.
And this is not the last time that you and me are speaking. You and me are going to hang out together, and you helped me. You don't realize it, but you did help me in many ways last week. So I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you so much. And I'm going to ask you to come back to talk about one of your other books when we create the next podcast, because we're creating another podcast, and then you're good. It'll be good for that one too. So thank you for being here.
Pleasure.
To everybody else, your time and attention is precious to me. I love you a ton. Have a great rest of the day.